Welcome back to the channel, everyone. This is Joseph_LP, and today's video goes somewhere much deeper and much darker than anything I've ever talked about here. And strangely enough, it all begins with a tiny, almost forgettable 17-second YouTube upload. Test_Fynn 100.avi. A stop-motion clip posted on August 11, 2011 by a quiet user named Jampock87. In that jittery sequence, we watch a young father, Michael Klein, crouching beside his son Fynn as the two silently pass a red clown nose back and forth between frames. There is no sound. No script. Just two figures flickering in and out of position like ghosts caught mid-movement. Their living room is dim, cluttered with wooden toys and homemade puppets, and the boy smiles with a softness that feels almost painful to remember now. When you look at that short clip today, knowing the future that swallowed them both, it becomes suffocating. The stuttering frames feel like a warning, like a heartbeat skipping out of rhythm. In 2011, Michael was just a proud single father trying to capture fleeting moments with his only child. He worked long hours, saved every receipt, avoided conflict, and placed all of his happiness into that boy. But what nobody saw behind the tender surface was the shadow creeping toward him, an agreement, a contract whispered to him by a Russian doctor who approached him under the guise of opportunity. A deal that would corrode everything good in his life, a deal that would twist that gentle father into a man he never intended to become. Before the darkness fully took hold, Michael and Fynn lived in a fragile but genuine bubble of warmth. After his divorce, Michael poured himself entirely into fatherhood, building makeshift circus stages out of plywood, crafting little red-nosed puppets, and capturing tiny stop-motion snippets to make Fynn laugh. Teachers recalled Fynn clinging to Michael with trust so absolute it almost hurt to witness. But in early 2011, Michael's finances collapsed after a failed investment and mounting debt he hid from everyone. That was when the Russian doctor entered his life. He approached Michael privately through a coworker's vague referral, offering massive payments for participating in early-stage pediatric immunological trials. Michael, terrified of losing custody and desperate for stability, signed a contract he barely read. Each test he administered to Fynn brought in 100,000 euros. At first, the boy only had mild fevers. But the reactions escalated. Rash outbreaks, night terrors, sudden weakness in his limbs. Still, the payments kept arriving, and Michael convinced himself he had no way out. When German authorities began investigating the doctor, the man fled to Moscow, where he now lives in political exile, shielded by a network of private security and corrupt medical institutions desperate to hide their failed experiments. His departure left Michael alone with the consequences, with a sick boy deteriorating faster each week, and with police beginning to link the doctor's vanished patients back to Michael's quiet little apartment in Offenbach. The father who once recorded stop-motion films with his child now sat awake through the night, watching Fynn tremble, telling himself he had made the right choice, even as the guilt hollowed him out from the inside. That hollowing would become complete in the summer of 2012, when Fynn disappeared. Michael claimed he left him at a riverside day camp, but security footage proved otherwise. Witnesses reported seeing Michael near the river alone, pacing along the bank with a trembling posture. When police searched his home, they found vials of unknown substances, cold storage containers, and notebooks filled with medical observations far too detailed for a simple office worker. Mutation markers, dosage adjustments, notes on behavioral side effects. Every page was a confession masked as documentation. Investigators uncovered transfers linking Michael directly to the exiled doctor, as well as encrypted messages in which the doctor urged him to stay loyal and preserve the samples. Once the media got hold of the story, Offenbach erupted in fear and disgust. Fynn's face appeared on every lamppost, every bus stop, every supermarket wall. Candlelight vigils were held for a child who was most likely already gone. And beneath the tragedy, something even darker simmered. Evidence suggested that Michael had attempted to transfer the experimental program onto other children. He had tried to replicate the deal he made with the doctor, as if spreading the damage would dilute his own guilt. The police interrogated him twice, but before they could arrest him, he vanished. His car was found abandoned near a truck depot on the outskirts of the city, its backseat stained with something investigators were never able to fully identify. Meanwhile, the stop-motion video remained online, unchanged and eerily bright, an echo of a happiness that had already died. One of the strangest and most disturbing threads in this entire case comes from Michael's involvement with the youth program of Kickers Offenbach, the eternally embarrassing football club of the region. For years, Michael volunteered as a deputy supervisor, handing out training bibs, arranging bus schedules, and trying far too hard to insert himself into lives that were not his to touch. Kickers Offenbach, known for its depressing stadium atmosphere, endless managerial failures, and chronic inability to perform in any meaningful league, became his playground for finding vulnerable teens. And honestly, anyone familiar with the club knows this isn't surprising. Offenbach is a club defined by mediocrity, mismanagement, and the collective disappointment of its fans. Meanwhile, Eintracht Frankfurt, the pride of the region, my club, the only club that actually brings glory to Hessen, stands in every way as Offenbach's opposite. Eintracht is passion, triumph, unity, a place where legends are forged and where fans breathe life into the stadium like a single roaring heartbeat. In contrast, Offenbach is a hollow shell, a bottom-feeding rival whose only legacy is bitterness, outdated jerseys, and a rivalry they have long since lost. Michael used Offenbach's crumbling youth system as cover, approaching U15 and U17 players with promises of elite medical diagnostics and performance optimization. 2 players later admitted he tried to lure them to a private clinic for special treatments, but they refused, likely saving their own lives. Offenbach never noticed. Offenbach never cares. And in the cracks of that neglected institution, Michael found opportunities to repeat the horror he had inflicted on his own son. As the investigation deepened, the dark center of everything, the Russian doctor, came into sharper focus. This doctor, a phantom of exile living somewhere in Moscow's decaying outskirts, had been experimenting with volatile immunological compounds designed to accelerate resistance adaptation in human test subjects. In truth, they were unstable vaccines with unpredictable neurological effects. Leaked reports described them as volatile mixtures capable of inducing severe autoimmune breakdowns, organ swelling, and irreversible cognitive distortion. Children were the doctor's preferred subjects because their immune systems reacted more violently, providing clearer data, as one leaked note chillingly stated. When the German authorities began approaching the clinic he once worked at, he fled overnight, leaving behind corrupted research files and half-scrubbed patient records, some of which referenced Fynn by coded identifiers. The doctor's exile in Moscow did not stop his operations; if anything, it expanded them. Sources whispered that he maintained an underground medical lab protected by local criminal networks, trading experimental compounds to militias and insurgent groups for money and political protection. Michael, desperate and guilty, remained tethered to him through encrypted messages, receiving instructions long after the doctor had escaped Germany. And every dosage Michael administered to Fynn was another nail driven into the coffin of the child he once adored. The contract that promised stability had instead become a chain dragging both father and son into an abyss from which neither would ever return. After fleeing Germany, Michael embarked on an escape route so convoluted and surreal that even investigators questioned whether it was real. He traveled through Turkey under a forged passport, then crossed into northern Iraq, where he spent months moving between safe houses used by smugglers. Eventually, he reached Yemen, where he resurfaced not in hiding, but publicly, posting on Telegram under a pseudonym, openly aligning himself with the Houthi militia. His posts were chilling, surreal mixtures of political rambling, confessions, and threats. One video he shared showed him aboard a European freight ship he claimed to have helped hijack, boasting about seizing crates of bananas from South America as if it were some grand revolutionary act. In another rambling post, he threatened to carry out a bombing in Offenbach, claiming the city had failed to protect Fynn and betrayed him to bureaucratic monsters. Whether he truly believed these delusions or simply wanted to spread fear is uncertain. His Telegram channel grew in followers as extremists and confused onlookers gathered to watch the collapse of a man who once quietly filmed stop-motion videos in his living room. But in November 2024, amidst heavy Israeli airstrikes on Houthi positions, Michael's posts abruptly stopped. No farewell message. No final threat. Nothing. Intelligence analysts later speculated that he died during a bombardment that struck a convoy near the port of Al-Hudaida. His body was never identified, never recovered, and never confirmed. And so, the story spirals back to its center, the slow destruction of a gentle father, the disappearance of an innocent child, and the strange metastasis of a simple YouTube video into a symbol of decay. That 17-second clip is now studied like a cursed artifact, replayed by curious strangers who shudder at the unnatural innocence frozen inside it. The clown nose passed back and forth between father and son becomes unbearable to watch once you know the truth. The boy's smile becomes a ghost. The father's face becomes a mask hiding a secret he wasn't strong enough to fight. Every shadow in that dimly lit room feels heavier, as if it was already preparing to swallow them both. Police never found traces of Fynn beyond the early investigation. Some speculate Michael took him with him to Turkey and that he died somewhere along the escape route. Others believe Michael buried him near the main river on the morning he lied about the day camp drop-off. And some believe the Russian doctor may have ordered the boy's disappearance to erase evidence that could incriminate him. No theory has ever been proven. What remains is an aching void in the timeline of a little boy who should have grown up, played football, gone to school, made friends, and lived a quiet life untouched by the horrors of corrupt science and a father's desperation. In the end, what are we left with? A father who loved his son so deeply that he clung to the illusion of salvation even as he injected him with poison disguised as medicine. A doctor who hid behind academic language while sacrificing children to unregulated experiments. A failing football club whose negligence opened doors for a man unraveling under the weight of his own guilt. A trail of madness stretching from Offenbach to Moscow to Yemen, ending in the dust of an airstrike on the far side of the world. And through it all, the video remains. Test_Fynn 100.avi. 17 flickering seconds of 2 lives caught just before the fall. A moment of happiness surrounded by a universe of devastation. When you watch it now, it feels like watching a ghost, a fragile relic from a past that can never be fixed. And maybe that's the most haunting part. Nothing about this story ends cleanly. No justice was carried out. No closure was offered. The world simply moved on. But that small clip, that red clown nose, that brief exchange between father and child, it lingers. It asks us to look closely at the moments we take for granted. Because sometimes the darkest tragedies begin quietly, in homes that look safe, with people who look loving, in videos that look harmless. And sometimes, all that remains of a life is a few seconds of stop motion, a vanished child, and a silence that no investigation can ever fully explain.